Hey, I'm Mike Wall. Welcome back to the Process to Perform Trench Warfare series. And this week we got a real treat because we're looking at the best position in football, offensive guard. Now we're going to look at some of the best guys in the league, in particular the guy at the top right now, Quenton Nelson. And what I want to show you is not only is a guy like that a physical specimen, he's got strength, he's got power, explosiveness, he plays with a mean streak, but he also is arguably technically the most sound player on the field. His footwork is incredible. His pad level is incredible. And when we go through him and a couple of the other players that we can see now playing really at high levels in the league, technically they stand out from some of the average players. And so it's not always about what school you went to or how much you can squat or how fast you ran your 40 time in. It's really about, hey, what kind of technical master can you become and how can that separate you from the rest of the pack? So take a look. I hope you enjoy.
Really demonstrate that the best players in the league are also some of the best technicians in the league. And really what we're going to talk about foundationally is from their stance to their initial footwork and their pad level, they do it as well as, if not better than everybody else. So I'm going to go through a couple guards. That was my position. I want to start obviously with, I think, the guy that's probably widely considered the best guard in the league, Quenton Nelson. And I just want to point something out about Quenton Nelson. So the last in 2019, three of the all-pro offensive linemen were from the same college. So Ronnie Stanley, Zach Martin, and Quenton Nelson, all from the University of Notre Dame. So Notre Dame and the coach at Notre Dame at the time, who I know he's moved on now, they have a history of, and now they have a track record of teaching players to be the best versions of themselves. And that is so, so important because it really does transfer at the pro level. And you can see as you watch games over and over, you can see that some guys are really lacking just in the basic fundamentals. We're always talking about stance, initial footwork, and pad level, kind of first and foremost. We move on from there. So let's watch some of this stuff. And again, I like to go through games one at a time, like one play at a time, because I want contextual intelligence behind why things are happening. So I'm not just going to show you a third down reel, and I'm not going to try to pull punches here and just go through selective plays. I want to go through a series of plays and have you understand that not every play is perfect, but you understand that these guys are consistently trying to do things the right way. Game versus the Raiders, Colts-Raiders game, playing against a really good defensive front. And the one thing you'll see about Quenton Nelson, he has a little bit wider base, but he's extremely mobile from that base. So I played with the wide base as well. As long as you can always gain leverage with the first step and retrace with that second step to be back in a position of balance and power, that really isn't a problem, right? The problem comes when your base is so wide that you cannot move laterally, you cannot move forward and backwards, you cannot move with balance and control. So he's able to do that. The one thing you'll notice when you look at his stance is Quenton Nelson does drop his backside when he's going to be in pass pro. So I could pretty much guess right now that he's going to be in pass protection. And as we look at this play, again, we're just going to go through play by play here. So he does a great job. Again, he's just a masterful guy. He does a great job of passing all this stuff off. If we slow this down a little bit, retraces his steps. Yeah, he's wide there, but if you really look at his first two steps are consistent with his stance. Okay, so we move on to the next play. So now you'll see his butt's up a little bit, right? So what do you think this is? Probably a run. Okay, so this is one of the most common blocks in football for an offensive lineman, for a guard. This is like what we call a deuce block. You can call it a plug. Now I want you to just stop and appreciate his footwork. 1, 2. Shoulder square to the line of scrimmage and drive. There's a monster holder. The tight end's the reason that they're not following the guard here. But if you look at this again, because really you don't see this a lot in the NFL. Look at the way he keeps his shoulder square. Look at the way his second step is straight up field, right? So he's capturing half of that defensive lineman, right? That defensive lineman is threatening his inside, so he takes that timing step inside, bam, straight up field. And now they're married. 74 and 56 are married straight up field, doing a great job of displacing that guy and putting him into the lap of the linebacker. This play doesn't work for other reasons, but that's a masterful job by both the tackle and the guard. Very, very well coached. So I did the first series here because they have a couple plays. So again, we look back at this. Guy's threatening the inside. He's got an outside zone play. Really gets his second step back in the ground and holds this off. Now, whether or not he should be coming upfield, I don't know how they run their plays, right? But I do know that he didn't cross over. I do know that he was able to get his second step in the ground and stop this guy's charge, right? So the guy didn't gain penetration on the line of scrimmage, right? He's passed the play. Again, Not a perfect play by his standards, I'm sure, but again, I'm just trying to appreciate the difference in footwork between the best, the elite of the elite, and the other players in the league. Okay, I'm most of this stuff I watched the first play, but I'm watching this all blind, so we're just kind of seeing how this goes. Okay, so there's a coaching point here. It's not to bring your outside arm into this play, but again, so this is a chip block to 44, timing step, second step in the ground, a little bit too far out because now he has to lean back into it. But look at the displacement and then completely capturing the play side number and then sticking to the linebacker. Again, we'll watch this one more time in slow motion. And you see hips up. He's going to come downhill here. Has that small timing step, second step in the ground. Second step is probably not his best footwork, and that's why he has to lean back into it. But again, masterful job of not only hitting the hip of the down lineman, then really capturing that and creating a huge hole. Okay, so we're 1st and 10 here, and if I'm just guessing by his stance, right, it's probably a run. Just, again, a phenomenal job to be able to stick. And, I have a lot of high school players ask me about this. Are we supposed to wheel on this guy? No, you're not. You're supposed to reset your track and then drive. And as he's continuing to try to drive this guy out the box, right, again, there's other reasons this play is not working. There's other reasons this play isn't working. Penetration on the backside here is one of the big reasons. But as long as Quenton Nelson understands, as long as you're trying to get your helmet on the other side of his helmet, that defensive tackle has to play that B gap. So if he stretches that B gap, all this guy's trying to do is get outside. And he's now been displaced, 10, 12 yards. And again, the thing you got to love about him, he's just going to keep trying to block. So he's down in his stance. You're assuming that this is a pass. It's a little bit of a tell for sure. Balanced. It's a comfortable play. But again, you can kind of tell what he's going to do based on his stance. Here, I'm guessing it's a run. And again, not great movement here, but look at the footwork that he has to get that second step in the ground so he doesn't run right by this guy. 1, 2, foot's in the ground, right? His shoulders stay square. He knows that he has that center help, and they got to reload here. So again, not the movement you want necessarily, but there's still a hole in the B gap. 1, 2, he's displacing his player. And 3, most importantly, he's not fighting against his center. As we look at it again, a lot of guys, because they'll cross over right here, they'll be fighting against that center. Right? These guys are going in the same direction. They're trying to push back to 50. Okay, it looks like the center's a little bit high compared to the body position of Nelson here. But again, the most important things you can control are your stance, your initial footwork, and your pad level. And he's got those down pat. It's not just because he's strong. It's not just because he's fast. It has something to do with the way that he operates every day. Resets there, trying to drive off the ball. All right, so you see the play here. So he got down. So backside run. Just let it run at full speed here. Again, he's not trying to cut his angles, his footwork. He can break this down. This isn't, gets that hand out for the backside tackle so he can get cut on the backside. Has a great track. He's able to get his hips above. Very important component here. When you get up to the linebacker, once your hips here are kind of at the same level as their down hip as the linebacker's kind of near hip, now you can start to wheel on this guy. And if you do it any time before that, he's just going to run right over the top. So again, this is all technical stuff, and he's a great athlete, but the reason he's having success here, really, a lot of technical work. A lot of contextual. Okay, pass pro, right? He's down. It's got to be a pass. Not much to look at there except for he's maintaining a good base. All right, so after false start, it looks like we have pass pro again. Get that low seat. Quick screen. Not much doing. ideally when you run these screens, it's interesting. The last guy out is usually the left guard here on a right side screen. So he's trying to look back to Peel, and quite frankly, 51's moving now. That's scooting. Not going to happen. All right, I want to skip over to the Washington football team versus the Niners because I think we have some good guards on both sides. First of all, it's just maybe one of the best tackle tandems in the league. Young man, again, out of Notre Dame, not a coincidence. He's playing extremely well, like very, very well coached from a young age, you can tell. And then one of the best, at least in my generation, or I suppose, God, I'm old, but one of the best around, Trent Williams. This kid, though, Laken Tomlinson, he's been in the league for a couple of years. I remember when he was coming out of Duke, I was just really impressed with his natural ability to bend. Like, he plays with incredible leverage, and he had good footwork when he was coming out of college. So I really haven't been watching him, but thought this would be a good opportunity. And then on the other side, we'll introduce Brandon Scherf, who's out of Iowa. Iowa's a football factory when it comes to offensive and defensive linemen. They've done such a good job over the years, and he's absolutely one of the best in the business right now. Physical, tough. We'll see in this film. I have not watched this film again. I like to just build this out kind of series by series. So I just want to make sure that we get enough snaps to make sure these guys, we're looking at what is proper here. So it's 1st and 10, first play of the game. Let's just watch Lakeland. So, good. So he's pulling. Does a great job, really, of creating that hole by running through 93. If we look at this again, right, they're probably not supposed to have 2 pull, right? But this is a good athlete making the best of a bad situation. So, loses a little leverage on his first step, ends up attacking, rip through. I know the coach for the Niners. I was with him in Miami. Incredibly smart guy. Every once in a while you meet line coaches. They might be like PhDs, and he's certainly one of them. Okay, if we move along to the second play here, for me, his stance always is gonna. I look at his stance. I'm thinking run all the way. I don't know if that's true or not. Coming up again, I want to demonstrate something that's important because this is not taught right in a lot of teams. When he's doing this is like a chip block, right? And he sees that the center's man has gone over to this side. So Tomlinson does such a good job. This is a little detail, guys, but it makes a huge difference. He's staying square the entire time. So you look at his feet. Let's put this down again. Initial step. Second step in the ground, and now he wants to hit this guy with his right shoulder, but he's going to stay square to the line of scrimmage because he has to block that linebacker. Masterful job with your initial footwork, right? And that allows you, again, you don't know where the running back's going to go, but that allows you to get your hands on your player. Doesn't always work out, but again, the process of what we're trying to do is correct there. So now we got third, so he's up in a 2-point. We know it's going to be a pass, obviously. So a couple things here to break down. He wants to reset. He's trying to short set. He wants to get on this guy fast. 1-2. Resets in the same body position. Taller than I would like, but is what it is. Does a good job of keeping extended. And, of course, he's not a tall guard, so he can play with a little bit of leverage. He can play under the pads of 93. Oh, careful. And, again, guys, it doesn't matter. Like, to me, you always go through film and you go, okay, well, I got to look at this series, I got to look at that series. Like, you are who you are, right? You always are who you are. So, if somebody wanted to watch film on me, I'd say, okay, you can watch from 2003 to, 2007. And I pretty much, some games are going to be better than others, but that's who I am. And it's the same with all these games. You just watch a series by series. It's like, your kids sometimes will say, oh, I made 20 shots when you weren't looking. Like, it's not really how it goes, right? So, we just pull film, and then we just make our estimations based on what we see, right? Because it doesn't really matter the opponent, it doesn't really matter the scheme. What matters is how you go through your process. So again, the suggestion here is a 2-point stance, and you're going to have a pass pro. So you can see this guy's extremely quick. Now he's being taught that short set. But more importantly, when he short sets, look how he extends his arms. He does such a good job of extending his arms. So now he's always back in this position where he can operate. Excellent. That's 2nd and 10. Looks like a run. Okay, quarterback keep. No big deal. 3rd and 4. So you can see the problem, right? So maybe he's sliding this way. So if he knows the center's coming with him, Maybe he's intentionally sliding flat against this wide guy because the number one problem with setting flat right here is, of course, that defensive tackle wants to club you or just rip inside. He's got you in a bad position here. And I'm sure that he's setting this way because he knows his center is going to clean up the trash, right? Not a position you want to be in right there, though, obviously. So there's a couple different things that you probably want to do a little bit differently. One, you could set on more of a line set, right? And then just be in this body position the entire time. So you'll see, this is kind of the no numbers mentality from the jump. But right here, look how tall he gets with his hips, right? When your hips are tall, it's easy to move you off the spot. And so now you're wrestling again. That could literally just be a function of knowing the center's coming with you. So we punted the ball away. It's 1st and 10. We're going to look at number 75 here, the right guard, University of Iowa, Brandon Scherf. He had some injuries early in his career. He is a phenomenal talent. I probably haven't watched enough film on him. We're looking at this first time you, first time me. But I just love the way, in the time I've watched him, explosive power, mean streak, technical mastery. Like, really he's trying to put this together and be a complete player, trying to be one of the best players in the league. So, love to watch him. Let's just see why here. Pass pro, you look at the footwork, you look at the way he tries to keep his hands off. For a guard to take these kind of kicks, really, really special, right? Gets that stab with his inside hand, then he retraces. Again, just a really, really nice job. Okay, I want you to just look at the demeanor. What does the demeanor suggest? The demeanor suggests run, even though the demeanor here suggests pass. This suggests run, this suggests run, so we'll see what this is. Just getting outside, you can see he can move. So we got 3rd and 7, 2-point stance. Look at this 2-point stance. If we go back a little bit, this 2-point stance kind of has that no numbers mentality. You can see that his pad level and his hip height versus this player, you can see his chest is up a little bit more. Everyone's got a different way to do this and what they're comfortable with. The big idea is, hey, can you have your mental weight on the inside of that inside foot so you can push off? He's going against some good players here, right? Wants to win with that inside. Oh, let's watch that again. Again, good set. Not giving him a lot, right? Shouldn't be catching there, but let's just finish by watching the end of this. Let's finish him to the ground. Let's just go ahead and throw him on the ground. And that's one of the reasons you got to love him if you're an ex-offensive lineman who can't do that anymore. So we got 3rd and 7, perfect. So 3rd and 7, you're going to assume it's a pass pro here. So he's back in the same stance. Again, he's got really honestly masterful footwork. Like, really, I appreciate how good his footwork is on his kick slide. Look at that. He's staying square to the line of scrimmage. Does a good job of punching and extending. Gets a little bit too caught up there with the punch. He should just punch and go. Okay, so we're a little bit late to get back. But really a nice job overall of this part. This is so, so crucial. So again, as you're watching this, right there, you look at the body angle, okay? So 91 doesn't have a lot to hit, okay? Get your shoulders over knees over toes. He's in his middle of his punch right now. That's why his hips are extending a little bit more. Right there, though. I mean, that's a perfect angle for an offensive lineman. Shoulders square to the line of scrimmage. Feet square to the line of scrimmage. Can move any direction. Can punch with power. Okay? This is an absolutely masterful job of getting the basics, the core components of the sport down right.
Hey, so let's try to look at one more series because I don't think we got enough kind of valuable information on that. One thing I want to point out, this foot's pointed out probably a little bit too much. He opens that hip. He's in a 3-point stance, but this is a passing formation just by looking where the backs are. So it's a okay short set again. I'm sure he's done his homework as far as why he's short setting that guy. And then second down here. Okay, eye backs. I mean, old school football, my favorite. Can't wait to watch. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so this guy's fast off the ball, but let's just check out the footwork. So that's what we want to appreciate here. Pad level, of course, is on point. First step, gains leverage. Second step, and this guy's just diving, so he's going to take him and just put him in the ground. So it's more of a acknowledging what you have in front of you. That does create the hole. So this is 1st and 10, probably run play action pass. I want to point something out. This is a 4-eye, right? This is not a 3 technique, and you just look at the way that he's looking at the tackle, right? So they're running like a 25, right? They just want to place a 4-eye in a different spot. You can see the shade here. So if we're attacking as a guard, right, unless we're scooping up to here, we're probably attacking backside. So that's great movement, not great finish, but great movement. So let's just start with initial footwork. So he's underneath himself probably too often. Like, he's such a good athlete that he probably doesn't need to be stepping with poor leverage, but he's so quick that he just gets to where he needs to go in these situations, especially when it's going to be like a tighter, like inside zone, right? And they're playing to this backside, so they don't even really have a man here. And now one thing you just love to see him do right there is what? Try to finish with both hands, so guy doesn't get on the tackle, but again, just a masterful job of getting to a spot. 2nd and 7. Now, if we compare this to maybe what we saw from 56 on Indy, you know, is his footwork as nice? And he's got quicks, he's got great leverage, but his footwork isn't quite as nice as 56. Not that his footwork's not great, it just is what it is. All right, 1st and 10, second series with Scherf, and again attacking that. Oh no. Okay. Let's watch that again. Let's appreciate just how physical this guy plays. Good drop step coming around, pushing off, and then taking advantage of him. Love it. That guy's a great player too. A little bit undersized for this confrontation though. So we're at 1st and 10. Back up in 2-point. Again, I just like how he sits down, shoulders over knees over toes, understanding that you can be shoulders over knees over toes in a hip hinge position and play sports, period. You don't have to have your chest up. You don't have to be in this position where the only thing you can do is waddle because you've already extended your hips. Like, none of that really makes sense. So, you know, they're taught proper movement patterns in the weight room, and strength and conditioning coaches teach them every single day how to move, and then we have to transfer that over to the best practices on the field. That's how you become a great player. Capturing outside, and then captures the outside, slips up a little bit here. His job is to get out of here and just give a hand to the center. So does he gain leverage first step? Gains ground by losing ground, doesn't clearly cross over. Does a good job attacking that outside number, right? In these situations right here, he's attacked that outside number, and then of course he does slip, but you know the deal is with something like that, you're taught to attack that outside number because you think 57 is going to either widen, right? Or if he shoots back in that gap and you have your footwork down, you're going to be able to just ball him off. Definitely a Ren stance, if I'm guessing. Not much to see there. Got 3rd and 2, big play coming up. So he gets down to a 3-point suggestion that, hey, we could be running the ball. And love the way it comes off. Do we win with our inside hand? Okay, leverage. 2nd step in the ground. Right, you want to strike 2nd step in the ground, same foot, same shoulder here. So ideal situation, he's taking a little bit of a drop because of the width of the 3 technique. 1, 2, and now you just see this hand. If this hand was just inside, we try to teach both hands kind of together inside, so you're shooting like a piston straight out instead of having this long limb extended outside your frame, because now 91 can attack the number, right? Now he's in control. So now he can wipe that arm away and not necessarily get in the play here, but just not a situation where you want to be able to sustain that block, excuse me. They're running like a backside A. We're going to call this a left gap or right gap. So again, it's just a question of who's coming off the ball, right? So these guys do a really good job, again, of staying square and going hip to hip. I mean, really, this right here is great. Okay, so now just keep driving, because there's no reason to come off 65 at all. There's no reason to come off. Push him all the way back here, and once 57 declares, now the center comes off. Because now you're in no man's land, right? These happen all the time, but still, you've gotten 3-4 yards of movement, and so you're going to be in good shape. Staying square, hip to hip. We see that with the best players in the league. 2-point stance.
Look at the way he attacks. Okay, if you're going to blitz, if you're going to run a dog on this guy, look at the way he attacks. One, and then he's not having any of that guy. He's not. Fred Warner's a great player. Hey, he's not having any of Fred Warner either. That's great. Got to appreciate it. Love the physicality, right? Love what he brings to the offense.
As we look at three of the top players in the league, you can see that they all kind of stand out in their own ways. They all have their unique body characteristics that kind of become part of the persona of how they play. But most importantly, their footwork, their initial stance, their initial pad level, the way they enter into confrontation under control. These are the things that define success in the National Football League. And we talk about kind of the result, and we talk about how good somebody is with their hands. But the truth is, while very important, the most important thing is how you get to confrontation. What kind of body position are you in when you get into confrontation? And so take that as a younger player, as a player trying to make it to that point, to get where these guys are. You can always be working on your technical. You can always be working on your football intelligence, right? Your football IQ and the way that you perceive the game. Understanding different situations call for different techniques. Understanding different situations call for different demeanor, right? And learning how to play that game within a game. So I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next week.